Okay, thank you. Item 13, which is the Family Wellbeing Partnership Annual Plan. Anything?
One, thank you. So this last plan that we're bringing forward today, Council is asking you to approve the Family Wellbeing Partnership Plan and to note the progress is set out in the annual report in the paper. Just wanted to say the Family Wellbeing Partnership, some of you are very familiar with it, but it's a way of working across directorates and other partners. It's not a project on its own. It starts with addressing the culture and the values and behaviours which can lead to significant change in the way we support our communities by getting the basics first and then reading out with what the action should be. It aligns fully with the Council's Be the Future programme and the operating model, and at its core is tackling poverty and helping people to live a flourishing life. And that flourishing life is how they decide they want their life to be. It's not necessarily about moving into employment, it's about their well-being and their capabilities. The plan is summarised in Appendix 1A with a plan on a page. We're hoping to do more plans on a page. It's then to follow. And there's more detail provided in Appendix 1B. And if I could just convene if I could, to thank all the people directorate team who contributed to all the plans today, because mainly all here, if they're not on leave, and there's been a huge amount of work in these plans that I've presented today. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Lynn. And what are the questions? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I'll just start by saying that I don't think there's any bigger supporters of this particular project than the Council and myself. But I do know that it has the support of members across the Chamber who have been actively involved in the partnership also. The collaboration between Clackmannanshire Council, Scottish Government and the Foundation via the Social Innovation Partnership is testing alternative delivery models and developing more meaningful partnerships with communities in the third sector, as Lorraine has outlined. At its heart is tackling poverty and a shift to early intervention and prevention, placing the needs of residents, communities and business at collaborative council decision making with a view to developing individual and community capacity through the way services are designed and delivered. The work in 2022-23 was supported by investment of around 400k. Investment received both direct funding to the council and to our partners such as the Lens of 1400. Bond 1400 continues to be a key developing partner, and they've supported the values-based leadership activity of partners, young people, families, individual community members and community groups, council staff and elected members, creating conditions for a community of change makers to emerge. And as I say, I know a number of councillors across the chamber have been involved in this work. The Lens has also supported the Family Wellbeing Partnership activity through two separate opportunities, which again many of us have attended at the Town Hall, which has helped local people and organisations develop ideas to support community initiatives. The partnership has also put Clackmannanshire on the map nationally in a good way this time, opening up further partnership opportunities, programmes and pilot projects such as the Scottish Government's School Age Wellbeing Child Wellbeing Project. The next phase of the Family Wellbeing Partnership has been agreed with the Scottish Government and the Hunter Foundation at the Family Wellbeing Partnership Board, with the draft Strategic Overview and Action Plan outlined within this paper. The Scottish Government have committed 300,000 with an additional 200,000 from the Hunter Foundation to explore funding. And the Hunter Foundation and Scottish Government are working with the Council to explore how we can help identify a partner to assist us in building a data map which will allow us to understand what data sources exist and to identify and understand any gaps and support better use of what is already available. Now, ultimately, this will mean that the people service and the Council as a whole and its partners move to a model driven by a genuine evidence-based approach to service design and implementation. Lastly, just this plan continues on the path of being national sector leading, and I believe in this plan genuinely and feel absolutely invested in the partnership, its vision and its approach to delivering services that are truly focused on the needs of our partners and communities.
Thank you. Councillor Forson to second the paper.
Yeah, I'm happy to second the paper, convener. As someone who's been close to the family wellbeing partnership since its inception, I'm really pleased to see it before us today. And again, I just want to say that Councillor Lindsay and Councillor Benny and myself have probably been at most of the family wellbeing partnership kind of meetings and sessions, etc. So I think we're all on board with this and fully committed. I think, as Councillor Lindsay said, the family wellbeing approach is another family wellbeing partnership approach is another example of where Clackmannanshire is leading the way in Scotland, and the support from the Scottish Government and the Hunter Foundation has been fundamental to this, as is the work with Colombo 1400. For this financial year, we've received a combined amount of £500,000 from the Scottish Government and from the Hunter Foundation to continue this work. And I think it's fair to say that it supports so many of the other plans that have been before us today. So the Promise Plan, raising attainment and tackling poverty, and again the work that the Family Wellbeing Partnership is doing to tie this up and move away from the silos is very important. I think what's also becoming clearer, the more we kind of do this approach and this work, that's going to be really key to implementing the target operating model, which is going to change the way that the council delivers services and I suppose our contract with the communities in the future moving forward. So great to see the plan here today, and I'm looking forward to the work because it's something that I truly believe in, and I think support from members across the chamber will be really crucial on this. Thank you.
Very much. Get us now open to debate. English debate. Councillor Tyson.
Thanks, convener. Just to echo the sentiments there, the leader and Councillor Lindsay. This is a massive piece of work that can be seen, especially through, even if you look at Appendix 1, Community Around Schools Initiative, the amount of partnerships and partnership initiatives that have been drawn together to make this a success is quite immense. The building blocks are required before we can move forward with the other initiatives that have been discussed here this morning in the other papers presented by the people director. And these initiatives in this paper are part of the building blocks that make the other things a success. Because unless we have cohesion around that strategy, then these well just no bother, because we need that cohesion, we need the partnerships to build on that strategy and bring the elements together that are going to make a difference in people's lives. And the Family Wellbeing Partnership is a crucial initiative in that, because it's bringing together elements that the council alone are unable to provide or support. So I'm hugely supportive of this paper, and thanks to the services that have been involved in this, because it's a massive piece of work. And very thankful to have such a dedicated team around this. Thanks, convener.
Thank you, Councillor Benny.
Thanks, convener. I was really excited to see this paper again. I was really involved in this way back from the beginning, and when I was working in the third sector and in all the initial meetings, and then some of the work that progressed throughout since. And it's really great seeing it getting to this stage. I'm really pleased to see that trauma-informed's mentioned in a few occasions. I think that's really, really important. And I think this initiative will be really vital to make sure that, as we were talking about throughout the meeting today, the cycle of poverty that we have within Clackmannanshire, and I think the work that's been done here is putting in place early intervention, it's putting in place the skills that people need to make sure that those cycles are broken and the cycles don't go on and on and on. So we need this kind of innovative work to make sure that we are tackling that. And I think this paper, with all the different initiatives that are going on within it, we're looking at the intervention at an early stage with children and young people, but we're also looking at the interventions people who through Strive, which is really, really important, that those people are not lost and fall between the cracks. So I think looking at the combination of work that's involved, huge respect for officers to put forward and the level and detail of work that's involved in it. So there's a lot behind that. So just very, very grateful for that and very pleased to see this paper. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Denny. Anybody else? To contribute? Councillor, did you want to say something? Okay, so the paper's asking us to note the progress of the current activity, available in the 9 report attendance 2, and recommend the council approves the plan with the dependence on 1A and 1B happy to approve. Okay, then you can take on the comments and give me the thanks and pass on this point to the procedure to the staff and board. Thank you. Item 14, there will be an update. Robbie, take us through to me.
Thank you, Convener. Good morning, councillors. I'm pleased to present this paper which provides an update on the Wellbeing Hub and Lock and School project. As noted previously by the Mayor, the Wellbeing Hub and Lock and School developments directly contribute to a number of key priorities across the council and people directed plans. Improving health and wellbeing is one of the 6 principles set out in the people directed business plan, with the project being a key work stream. Improvement in children and young people's health and wellbeing is one of 5 national priorities in the National Improvement Framework Plan. And the Family Wellbeing Partnership approach directly informs the development of the hub and Lock and School, including our plan for the operating model. This report provides an update on the following key activities: an update on the project brief with an overview on the draft project vision, strategic outcomes and objectives provided in Appendix 1, details on REBA Stage 2 concept design phase, which will run from September to the end of December this year, an update on the supply chain selection for the design team and the main contractor, with detailed timeline provided in Appendix 3. The design team and the main contractors will all be appointed in early September and will be shared formally with Council at the October meeting. An update is also provided on the communications and engagement strategy, with a summary provided in Appendix 4, including details of ongoing public engagement activity over the summer months, and all of the social media handles that we tried to articulate in the last meeting, all noted there as well, so you can copy them and hopefully start following. The report also provides an update on the Primary 5 critical scoring programme and a summary report in Appendix 5, again as promised at June Council. I would like to finish by thanking Council again for your ongoing support and shared ambition for the Wellbeing Hub and Lock and School development, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Robbie. Do you have any questions? Councillor Coy?
Thank you, Robbie. Hello. How much have we spent to date? In my mind, it's about 220,000. That seems to figure in the accounts. But maybe going beyond that. Probably that figure. And second part of the question is, what have we committed to spend that there's no going back from? To show us the total commitment to the council financially at the moment.
I'll need to go back to some of the details on that. The figure that you've quoted so far is roughly what we spent to date. Obviously, in terms of the capital plan going forward, there is, in terms of the Wellbeing Hub, there's around 55 million allocated. We've not spent any of that yet. An allocation of that will be spent this year. Mostly that will be around the work that HubCo will be doing on our behalf to bring in various contractors to take forward the concept design phase and take us through to financial close, at which point we'll come back to council with final figures.
Sure. So the second part of the question is, what's our current exposure then beyond the 220? What is the no going back on?
I'll just come back to this further detail on that. Thank you.
Councillor McTaggart, before the councillor.
Thanks, Convener. Just wanted to ask Robbie, is all this information going to be uploaded onto the social media channels?
Yeah, we're trying to just build up the amount of communication that we do in terms of the detail. Obviously, these updates to everything to provide as much detail as we possibly can share in the public domain. That's not sensitive information. We will, all of this stuff, key updates will be added to the social media channels, will be added to the website and continue to promote that. We want to be as open and transparent as possible. This project is something we've committed to as a council. So yes, if you continue to follow through these, we'll push them. And I'd like to say, if you pick up anything from any of your constituents that you feel is missing, please keep that in, and we'll make sure we continue to update the pages and make them as relevant as possible. The concept design is a much more exciting phase for the public, so start to see images of what the building will look like. We'll start to get a much greater sense of what's coming. throughout that process, we'll start to see more and more interest, and we'll make sure all of that is shared.
Okay, thank you, councillor Cook.
Aye. Quick question about like on 3.1. So about the briefing and evaluation framework workshops as they've been proceeded. How have they influenced, if at all, the vision and the objectives that we have?
That's the question. Obviously, there's been a really strong vision for this project from the council right from the start, but what we wanted to make sure through going through those workshops, including all key partners and stakeholders throughout that. So we had 4 workshops, 2 full days, 2 half days, and really what that's to do is integrate the wider council vision. How will that be articulated in this project? How do we take all the key areas that have been brought forward already by the range of the people directed to the plans, and ensure that this project delivers against them and holds us account on those. So you'll see in Appendix 1, we've broken that down into key strategic objectives, key smart outcomes, key smart objectives, which at each stage of the project briefing phase and concept design, we keep coming back and checking, are we going to deliver that? How do we deliver that? And how do we make sure we continue to keep within the project budget?
Councillor Quinn.
Thank you. As a parallel track to this is the development of transport links. I don't know if that's come in the detail, and if it is, look at me for asking the question. But what progress has been made, or what is the current thinking on transport links? Well, that was one of the objectives of these fences. I know that it's easily accessed by bicycle and on foot, but that doesn't apply. There are going to be people who need to get ferried there by some transport needs or other. Can you give me an update on that? Is there anything to report?
Colleagues have just walked in the door, which is perfect timing in some ways. But obviously transport will be a key part of this, and over the next in the coming months, particularly as we go through concept design and start to look at the infrastructure around the site, what needs to go in, how people access it. All of that's a critical part of any development. Same way for building schools, hospitals, everything else. That will come through the REBA stages. And it's really important that one element that's come out really strongly, which you'll see in the project brief and the overview, is the active travel links. And there's a huge amount of work going on in Clackmannanshire around that, joining up some of the areas that have been gaps. But how do we make sure that we can use the wellbeing hubs as a place where people can connect in through particularly active travel if we can, and that's all part of the overarching master planning process.
Okay, do you want to go on?
Thank you. I was just going to add to what Robbie said, if that's okay, in response to Councillor Collins' question. There's also a connection to the next paper, because it's related to develop sustainable transport model, so it makes it get a bit closer. As we look to develop out that sustainable transport model, we're looking at a much more holistic model that draws in all the local and regional transport needs, because we think there's an opportunity to create more opportunity, but also more resilience in terms of systems as we move forward, rather than looking on a more piecemeal issue by issue basis. So there's a really strong connection on that side.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Robbie. Councillor Harrison, to you.
Thanks for being there. Before I get on to the wellbeing hub and Mockies, in particular, I'd just like to reiterate what's been said about the papers. I don't know how many of us there that were aimed off forward. But this is part of it as well. You know, all of that is about making Clackmannanshire a better place to live in, and the wellbeing hub is absolutely part of that as well. So it's great to see all of those papers. I could have jumped in any one of those, but you know, I think it all shows how we as a council want to make Clackmannanshire a better place for everybody to live. So on the wellbeing hub itself, yeah, Robbie's mentioned architects' plans were actually received, and they did a bit of a mini contest, and it's now down to 3. I've actually seen the final 3 designs, and I can't tell you how excited I was when I saw them. I think it's actually made me even more excited to see what we can achieve for the community there. So the final process will be completed in the next few weeks. I really look forward to being able to share that, those outcomes with council at further meetings. One of the additions that you'll see is the visions framework that was in this paper, and hopefully that helps you see kind of what the architects have been working to, what the brief that they were given. Also, the ongoing comms and engagement sessions that they've continued during the summer period. The sport and leisure team have been attending various local events, and I think they've been very well received actually. I think most of the positive. So the comms team have continued with that, and also various social media channels. So I'd encourage you to get on those. It was very surprising when I actually saw myself on Twitter. I knew I had recorded it, but I wasn't expecting to see it. So yes, it came as a bit of a surprise. Also, I was at the UCI World Cycling launch last Wednesday evening, and in the official event programme, Clackmannanshire have got a couple of adverts in, and there's a QR code that takes you to talks about Clackmannanshire cycling routes, but it also has a link into the wellbeing hub as well. So we're trying to get that as much as possible. What we're doing with positive comms. I think one of Councillor Coyne's questions about transport, I think, paraphrasing slightly, but I think it is in the paper when the team have been out and about. That is one of the questions that come up. But when you actually tell people where it is and explain to them where it is, I think one of the comments was, "Oh, actually, that's quite close." So I think once people actually see where it is, I think they start to get it. So I think when I speak to people, when the team are out speaking to people, there is a real eagerness and excitement for us to happen. So yeah, look forward to bringing more detailed updates to future council meetings.
Thank you, Councillor Lindsay, to second.
Yeah, happy to second, and just to reiterate, I suppose, a few points that have been outlined already. This is part of our ongoing commitment, I suppose, to bring forward an update at the council meeting, which we made previously. So it sits in line with that, and there'll be further updates, particularly around the financial situations as well, as that transpires, because at the moment the current situation around infrastructure builds are ever changing. So I'm sure you'll get regular updates around the financial elements of that. The concept design phase is the exciting part. Alex Scott managed to have a sneak at the 3 designs that are currently on the table at the moment, which really does bring it to life. And I know that's what people out there really need to see, not just want to see, but we do have to, get that out there as soon as we possibly can, conscious that, we are within the boundaries of ensuring the process takes place, but we're not far away, it seems, from being able to articulate and show that visual of what this is going to look like, both from the hub perspective, the actual physical building itself, but also what it looks like out with, because it is a beautiful location. I think there still is an element of work to do there, just to educate people on where the location is, because if you are walking those routes, it sometimes isn't an easy place to fully appreciate where it actually is. So I think there is still work to do around that, and the team are going to be looking at maybe drone footage and things like that, just to pinpoint it for people so they understand fully where it is. But yeah, I'm really excited about being able to show the public exactly what this is going to look like, both internally and externally, and how it fits in. And comms is key to that. Like Scott, been a number of community events, and there's been a real presence of staff at each of the events I've been to as well, which is very critical to that. So yeah, hopefully the public are still with us in terms of just that patience of the next step that's coming. There will be visuals soon, and yeah, I'm sure that will generate further excitement with it. So happy to say that.
Thank you. Papers open for debate. Interest debate. No. We have to approve. Okay. Item 15 is the public transport procurement paper.
Thank you, good evening, members. The purpose of this paper is to update the council. I'm sorry, I'm just recovering from a bit of a cold, so apologies for the I'm fine. So the purpose of this paper is to update council on the procurement of public transport services, in particular the C2 bus route and the door-to-door services, and to provide information on future sustainable service provisions. So the recommendations are set out in section 2. And 2.6 indicates that I'll be providing a verbal update today, which I will do shortly. Before I do go into that briefly now, I'd just like to point out that there's a minor mistake in the paper under section 3.8 in the final paragraph, sorry, the final sentence. It talks about with the decommissioning of the C2 service about the information signage. So information is already on the council's website and it is being displayed on the C2 bus code. The paper indicates that there'll be signs on all the affected bus stops leading up to the closure. That's not the case. The signs go up once the service is terminated, just to avoid any confusion. So that is the direction. Thank you. Sorry about that. So in terms of the verbal update, since we penned this paper, really positive discussions with down the journey. And these discussions are continuing, and between us, we're confident that arrangements can be put in place to ensure that we're maintaining the dial journey services to vulnerable people in the short term, and we can do that within the budget envelope that we've got. And we'll find a way through the procurement route in such a way that we're in compliance with contract standing orders. So that's a positive. In terms of the longer term solution, there's agreement from a range of parties, including down the journey, that there is an opportunity to look fresh at the way that we deliver public transportation. Public transportation is emerging as a key issue across the Forth Valley, actually, in all councils in the Forth Valley. It's been evidenced by the work of something called the Forth Valley Connectivity Commission, a group of experts who've been looking at this issue and provided information to the leads of the 3 councils. And also it's coming through the emerging regional economic strategy. These documents are still being finalised, and when they are finalised, they will come forward to council for scrutiny and decisions. So it's clear that a sustainable transport delivery model is required to provide a more holistic transport model that encompasses all of the various demands of different users, and really looking at a new service design. We spend, if this particular council spends about £1.2 million on public transportation, how might we use that money more effectively is the task that we're looking at, based around the needs of all the various customers. And here's just an example of the comments from the Chief Executive about just how relevant it is to a range of issues across the county. So to do that work, we will be working with a range of organisations. We've already started some of the work through the Clackmannanshire Alliance, and so working with those partners. And we've got a draft terms of reference for the group, but we want to widen that out to include other partners in the third sector as well. And also to bring in the Forth Valley Connectivity Commission expertise and some of our regional economic partners from the other councils, together with the transportation experts from each of the councils together. So that's quite a big group, and so we need to have quite a bit of thought together about how we're going to engage that and do that co-creation process. Working closely with Lorraine and the Family Wellbeing Partnership, because they've developed a model for doing this kind of thing. So we'll be taking along learning those lessons and applying those lessons. That work is going to be take a while. It's quite a complicated environment. There are lots of different needs and demands. It's a regulated area of business. So there are a lot of complexities we need to work through. So it is going to take some time. We anticipate between 18 and 24 months before we get to the final sort of service solutions. If in the meantime we find any early wins, any things we can bring forward before then of course we will do. So thank you for your time there. I'll happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, do we have any questions? Councillor
Thank you very much for the list and for the update earlier. We felt that was really useful, giving us more detail. Just a quick question as well. If people are currently on the route that's going to be discontinued and then they're going to have to use direct the journey, do we know there's going to be any cost impact to the end users of that? There's going to be a difference in any cost there. Thank you.
So in terms of the C2 service, the element that will cease from Friday this week to tomorrow will affect 31 regular users. 16 of those users
So they will not be able to access any public transportation, and about half of them will be able to access public transportation. But they'll need to walk to get access to that. We are in conversation with Dial Journey to see if they can pick up some of those passengers that are disenfranchised. And there's a view that under the terms of their operating licence, there are set criteria for the services that they deliver, and geographic isolation is one of those things. So we think that there is an opportunity to pick up those kind of things, but we need to work through that with them. And obviously, if it's going to incur extra cost to them, then that's the conversation we need to have. The Dial Journey services are operated under a Section 19 licence, which means that tackle costs do not apply, so there will be a charge to those customers. They're already currently paying C2 charges anyway. So, but there will be a fee if they want to use the Dial Journey in the short term until we could come up with alternatives.
Councillor Bryan.
Thanks, Commissioner. Pete, you're running, I understand, a rolling open-ended contract to continue the service while deliberations go on. Is that correct? And if that is correct, is that at a pro rata rate for the 50k annual charge that was historical to the end of the contract?
Sorry, if I gave the wrong impression, I wouldn't describe it as a rolling contract. We've in discussions to have a short-term contract up until the 24th, up until the end of March 2024. That's what we're doing. As part of that conversation, we will look to see whether there could be a possible extension by a year, but we need to have a conversation with Dial Journey around the funding of that. And of course, Dial Journey have their own governance, and they need to get things approved with their own board of directors. So these are discussions, we're having positive conversations, but there are a few things that we need to just tidy up.
On a similar different point, so in 6.2 you mentioned some communities that will be consulted, and on behalf of my ward, I would like to have a mock-up from the forest, so we'll include it in that. That should be already. Presumably that was your intention. That's a very good point. Yes, that's great. And the stakeholder that you mentioned 6.4 is Clackmannanshire represented on that. 6.4, page 5 to 7. Yes, so Clackmannanshire Council will be leading that conversation, but given the regional aspects of it, it will widen out to include the other councils, but we are looking at it. Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes. That's good. Councillor Watson with the people.
Thanks, I hope my voice isn't too hoarse this time. Myself and Councillor Forson, we met with Dial Journey a couple of weeks ago, and then we met with Pete. So the conversation that we had with Dial Journey was really positive, and we were basically kind of singing from the same hymn sheet kind of thing. We were talking about the people that kind of use Dial Journey's services, and then the wider issues of connectivity, as we're talking about yourself, Dennis, saying about Muckart and Forest Mill, and then obviously we also brought up about like the wellbeing hub and getting all that. So it's a huge big conversation and needs to go forward, and positive about what we could hopefully bring to the area. If anybody also has any kind of ideas or knows the kind of services that are going about the country, because we know that there's the 5 bus or the Mori bus, if anybody else hears of any other models, if we're open to hearing about that, so please just kind of let us know lots of information and getting it right for Clackmannanshires best approach.
Thank you. Councillor Forson, second.
You're happy to second the paper, and there's a lot of work going on around the transport agenda that's probably not to a lot of people just yet. A couple of years ago now, council meetings on Stirling, Clackmannanshire and Falkirk, we commissioned the Forth Valley Connectivity Commission, And I think it's fair to say they came back with a report that probably didn't make much sense to either of the three council leaders or the chief executives. So we sent them off with a revised agenda. In the meantime, all sorts of circumstances have probably resulted in this situation. It's important to note that a tender was put out for these services, but a competent tender was not received. I think just because of the circumstances that we're experiencing here in Clackmannanshire, but across the rest of the country as well, through lack of bus drivers, lack of buses and increase in costs. So we're in a bit of a perfect storm almost in relation to bus services. But the Connectivity Commission, the Forth Valley Regional Economic Partnership, but also our kind of local partnerships here are fully aware of the issues, and there is work ongoing. I think we need to probably start driving that agenda a little bit faster. And one of the next focuses in relation to the family wellbeing partnership is this specific issue. And I'm quite certain that we will come up with a solution that's going to not just pick up what the C2, etc. delivered, but also look at our communities that have been a bit disenfranchised, Dollar, Muckert, Forest Mill, but there's also the wider agenda of accessible transport for everybody, and more people than ever can get free public transport. We just need to make sure that we have services that can actually meet the demands and the needs there. I would also say though that there's a kind of chicken and egg situation. Bus services are only viable if people use them. People only use bus services if they're reliable. And right now, we're not really seeing that either in the private sector. So there's a fair bit of work to be done there. I think the paper here and the work that will be done with their services in conjunction with the other ones that I've already mentioned, but also with our third sector and communities will hopefully come up with a bespoke service. I'd encourage members to look at the Murray bus service or the Fife service that's there. They're actually real viable models that I think could be easily adapted for here in Clackmannanshire. It may not be the council who runs it, it may be a partnership with the third sector or other private sector organisations. But until we get everybody around the table and come up with the solutions, we're not going to know that. But looking forward to updates going forward and happy to second the paper.
Thank you. Papers open for debate. Do you wish to debate it? Yes, already.
Yeah, just to say, one of the biggest calls that I get in is from constituents about travel and barriers, and it's something I feel really strongly about. And when this tender came out, Councillor McCluckie and I met with Dial a Journey as well, and it was really tangible to hear the challenges that people face and how that can be tackled in a really positive way. So I'm really glad to see that this is moving forward, and I'm glad that there will be these interim arrangements in place in the meantime, and that hopefully we'll be able to utilise Dial a Journey for some of our constituents who will really be struggling. I think it's really important to say that choice is really important for individuals, and also that they're able to, people who have particular maybe disabilities or disadvantages are able to use their own sort of initiative in deciding how they want to use transport. So I think we really need to have people part of this consultation moving forward as well. So as was being said, I think we need to make sure we involve every community within Clackmannanshire and the people within that to ensure that they're involved in decisions moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Councillor Quinn?
Thank you, Convener. I think transport planning is at the root of an awful lot of important things in the future. I mean, we're trying to get rid of people driving to work. Now, most of the vehicles you'll see on the road in the morning are people going to work. And they're going to work in their cars because public transport is inconvenient, untidy, messy, noisy, unreliable. So it's really, really important that we think about transport revolution as being at the core of the kind of revolution of the way people consider their attitude to work. And so whatever we do with transport, it has to establish a system that people can rely on that is convenient, clean and comfortable. There may be a price to pay in that they may not be able to always state individual times for themselves, that they've got to do some sort of reliance on a new platform, which may not suit them perfectly, but if the compensation is that you're getting clean, comfortable, and free transport to work, that may well work. So it's really, really important that this is done sensibly by everybody across the country generally. And let's hope that Clacks can once again become a lead player in a very important revolution. So I support this paper entirely as a first step on a long journey.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn.
We're very much wanting to thank Pete and everyone who's worked on this. It was public transport is a very difficult problem. It was a difficult problem, unfortunately, and I appreciate it put a lot of effort into this and trying to come up with a solution that's going to work here. But in my mind, public transport should be owned by the public. It should be run for the public benefit, and my mind, the only good public transport is publicly owned municipal bus companies run for the people, owned by the people, not owned by bus companies, not has to be negotiated with bus companies on which routes are most profitable, on which routes we can afford to subsidise one that's based on the needs of people. And I remember in the administration they said they supported such a thing in the election. Since then, and I hope maybe now's not time for any update on that, but I hope that we're not getting up on that, and that hopefully there's going to be discussions happening, or they're going to be happening. So that's something we can maybe look at investigating more to try and implement, because in my mind that's the only way to have a viable public transport system that really works for people is to do it that way. And it's been proven in lots of areas where they do this. You've got to public transport more reliable, it's more affordable, it's better used. That's what we need, and that's, I think, the only way long term we can make it happen is by doing that kind of model. Thanks.
Anybody else? So what do you want to so the recommendation are laid out in the section of the Royal Report meetings, they're all ones that are subject to the main connection PK again, and be happy to approve the meeting. Thank you. Item 16 is the Scottish Housing Regulators annual return of the charter and participation in interim strategy 2024. Thank you.
Thanks for being up. Good afternoon, Council. The purpose of this report is to present the Scottish Housing Regulator annual return of charter 2023, asking members to note the performance information contained within the return. A copy of that has been provided to members as a backing paper ahead of this meeting. This report also asks members to note the proposed interim tenant participation strategy contained in Appendix 1. This to be progressed during the current financial year in advance of a fully recognised tenant participation strategy being introduced in 2024 with implementation through 2027. Sections 3.6 through to 4.2 highlight some key areas of performance which were submitted as part of the full annual report charter. Don't go through each and every one of these, but I would draw members' attention to section 3.7, which highlights void property performance. This was something which we made tonight and brought forward a paper to members in June. We have been experiencing some challenge in turning around the void properties within an acceptable time period. We had moved from previously a tradition of 32 days turnaround for a void property, and that broadened and escalated out to a 47-day turnaround. Pleased to report that we are, since the June meeting and the approval gained from that, I'm pleased to report that we are moving forward now with improvement actions, and we're taking that forward as a priority and working toward reducing down that figure from 47 days back to something far more acceptable and like 32-day figure as I had previously. We'd also draw members' attention to section 3.8, which is our Scottish Housing Quality Standards performance. Have seen quite a significant drop off in our percentage compliance with SHQS. Previously we were always a bit high, the high 98.7% compliant in 2020 and 2021. We've dropped off now in a position where we're only 39.3% compliant. The reason for that drop-off can be attributed directly to the COVID-19 pandemic and our inability during that period to take forward some of our planned maintenance works. Included in there was the electrical testing and inspection planned works, and also our energy performance survey works, which produce energy performance certification for our domestic housing stock. So our inability to move forward with those programmes is directly impacted our SHQS performance, and that's the reason for that drop off. Again, I'm pleased to report that we do have action plan in place currently to move forward, and we do expect to recover the position of SHQS by the end of the financial year, back in the 90s. So section 4 provides some information on the rent position for current rent arrears position. Move to section 5. You have tenant participation strategy. This is an interim strategy which we'll take forward just now ahead of finalisation of full strategy. We have had to highlight to the Scottish Housing Regulator that we are not fully compliant at the moment with the responsibilities to board tenant participation. One of the key items which we're missing is a tenant participation strategy, and as I say, we plan to pay that forward fully in early 2024. So as a place marker just now, telling this to members, to the Clackmannanshire Tenants and Residents Federation, and also to the Scottish Housing Regulator, we propose to take forward the interim strategy in this current financial year. It's 8 key actions within that strategy that we can move forward just now. One thing that will really help us move this forward and be shown is the recruitment to the position of a tenant participation officer. That is currently ongoing at the moment, and as soon as we are able to appoint someone successfully in that position, they will be absolutely key critical to put on with our needs to develop this full tenant participation strategy. So this interim strategy is a place marker just now ahead of the full strategy being realised. Thanks very much. I'm happy to take any questions from members may have.
Thanks for that, Andy. Do we have any questions? Councillor Clyde?
Hi, let's start with the simple one. In 2.2, you talk about the submission of the annual return of the charter. Now, when we turn to page 533, the comparatives at the top of the page of 2019, 4 years ago, is this an annual return? Why is the comparative not 2022? Or have I missed something?
Thanks for your point. Some of the information goes back to the charter. There's a number of indicators in there that actually drawn from tenant satisfaction survey. And that survey only takes place every 3 years. So that information is constantly there. So that's comparable back to 2019 as opposed to the last year.
I have a number for questions. That's all right, Chair. Right, next one. The SHQS, that's Scottish Housing Quality Survey or something, right? What are the consequences to the council or for the council of SHQS failures?
Do nothing about it, then quite simply, tenants will be London properties that potentially classed as being below tolerable standard. But as I say, we are open book with the regulator, we are engaging with the Scottish Housing Regulator. We're not alone, should point out, we're not alone in this. It's a national issue, obviously. We're not the only ones that have had difficulty in terms of maintaining some of the repairs and maintenance responsibilities during the COVID period. So it is something that's reflected nationally. As I say, we are very proactive at the moment in terms of covering that position. We have made really good inroads, particularly on the electrical inspection and testing type things. We've almost actually fully recovered. We optimistically we may just achieve that by the end of the calendar year, but certainly by the end of the financial year. And then, as I've said, secondly to that, the main issue that we have is the energy performance certification, something that we need to cover there as well. But the consequences, I think in terms of, as I said, the electrical one would be the one that probably say is alarming when you consider the electric repairs properties. But as I say, you're quite comfortable that we're covering that position at the moment.
Yeah, these are consequences for tenants really, the first ones that you mentioned anyway, and the really legal consequences for the council of us bearing a responsibility to.
No, at the moment, council government, no. There's nothing there, there's nothing to concern myself with at the moment, no. It's something that we were going to have problem in, I feel difficult in, potentially, but not at the moment, no.
And my next question relates to table 2 of page 535. The very bottom line, the highest rate of account balance is £7,500. We making a castle somewhere. How the hell does it get to £7,500?
Not aware of myself in castle to put something within the store. Yeah, that's a pretty high figure, like I said, but and we do have constant ongoing dialogue, engagement with the tenants that are experiencing obviously difficulty paying rent. So yeah, I mean there's a process there where we do engage quite a bit before we end up in a position where we feel that we're more alternative or looking at eviction option. So yeah, there's recovery plans that are put in place to try to be agreed with the tenant. Unfortunately, they're not always agreed by the tenant, and obviously attempts are made to engage and enable our recovery plan. So at the end of the day, the one that we've been positive if we're going to have that now, and we have had this recovery plan in place, we thought we're getting somewhere. Subsequently, that's failed or has failed, and it's failed again. So we do take steps that are seen to try and for the tenants to recover debt and have a manageable plan to prevent it from getting to anybody at that level. But unfortunately, there are very few instances that it does take up to that figure that we see there.
So presumably the reason that yes to that level is because there are other considerations and maybe children, etc. who would be homeless if you just simply tough the tenant out. Okay, I mean, is that quite a unique one? I mean, is the next one you roll out much good? I don't think it's actually, is that standard on its own? It's fine. I think that was my last one, I'll just check. 5.3 on page 536. Am I right in assuming that our failure to have a recognised and agreed tenant participation strategy is purely because of the staff vacancy? It's not because of bad management, bad time.
Yeah, without that tenant participation officer for longer than we would have liked to have been, and previously council did approve, that's to enable us to take forward recruitment to that post. But you're absolutely right, that post is critical to us moving forward with a full participation strategy or something that needs to be the requirement. So that will be a key and critical priority for that individual when they are recruiting the post, hopefully very soon.
Okay, thanks. No other question.
Okay, any other questions? No, that's not anything. Councillor Tiger, something?
Thanks, convener. Purpose of the charter is explained in the paper, and it's unfortunate that it's not been possible to bring this paper to council before it was submitted to the regulator. However, the reasons for that are explained in the paper, and it's hoped this pattern can be replaced next time this paper is due. The paper self-explanatory regarding the SHR indicators, and it's heartening to see that our tenant satisfaction is either steady or improving. One of the points that Andy made around the electrical safety checks, an analogy was presented to me regarding our failure in the electrical safety checks. And the analogy was that if your car is due an MOT today, it doesn't become unroadworthy the moment the MOT certificate expires. Therefore, similarly, with the electrical safety checks, the properties are in such good condition that the electrical safety checks are obviously a mandatory process. However, it does not mean that the property becomes unstable the day after that electrical safety check expires. So it's just a assure councillor Coyne that if properties are not substandard, it is literally a paper exercise, if you like. I'm delighted to see that the tenant participation strategy is expected to be completed by this time next year. I understand there's still a great deal of work to be done on this, and I look forward to seeing the progress on that. I'm hopeful we can fill the vacant tenant participation officer post soon, because that post will be crucial to get the strategy right, and it will ease some of the burden on existing housing staff. And as anybody who knows, while I've been housing spokesperson, that has been a point I have reinforced time upon time. Housing participation strategy, tenant participation officer, and I'm hopeful that both these elements are going to be resolved very soon. Thanks to the staff for the work that they've already put in, and I look forward to further progress on this. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Councillor Walls, is there in favour?
Take the formal second, please.
Okay, thank you. Papers open to debate. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, just a small thing that was said earlier, about the safety checks. I know that it's not going to go live, it's not going to be live breakdown the day after, but at the same time, you then have nothing. You're then out of date, if you like. So just to say this with the car analogy, if your MOT is up to date, you drive it tomorrow, you're legal. So we need to make sure that these things are getting done before the date rather than after the date. And I know that's difficult. Obviously, the work that's getting done is phenomenal, but we need to be careful about these things, because if something does happen a week later, then liability would fall dead square on the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Opportunity to sum up, Councillor Taylor?
It's fine. Right.
Okay, so the papers recommending that we note the submission of the annual return of charter, which is submitted. Sports housing regulated on the 31st of March 23, noting the relevant performance results and measures for scrutiny purposes, and to further note the proposed interim tenant participation strategy in 23-24 as set in appendix 1. You happy to approve the paper? Thank you. Final item for today is a motion to Clackmannanshire Council from Councillor Forson.
Thanks, Convener. I think the mission pretty much speaks for itself. We all know the issues with disposal of waste. We can see them in our communities. We see the evidence from Ash Scotland that between January 2021 and April 2022, there was an 18-fold increase in use of disposable waste, and that on average 1.3 million disposable waste are thrown away each week. There's two issues in relation to the vapes here. One is the litter and environmental issues. I think there are ways that could be mitigated. We could provide more disposable units, etc., to help the people to dispose of their vapes properly. However, for me, the bigger issue is in relation to young people and using disposable vapes. We know that vapes contain highly addictive nicotine. It's particularly harmful for children and their health, and the longer term impacts of these chemicals are not quite known, particularly on young people whose bodies are still developing at the moment. When we look at many of the vapes, they're currently marketed at young people and children. If you've got pink unicorn kind of flavoured vapes, I don't know what a pink unicorn would taste like, but they're clearly marketed towards a certain demographic, as are the Skittles and the strawberries and all the other flavours that are kind of out there. And it's quite a cynical marketing campaign, I think, by the companies who are producing these products. For those of you who attend the Children and Young People Board, you would have heard the quite worrying statistics from the Planet Youth data that comes forward, with 30% of our 15-year-olds have tried vaping and actually vape on a regular basis. I think that's extremely worrying because we know that young people who take vapes, the evidence shows that they're more likely to go on to take up smoking. And that's actually starting to reverse the trends where young people were, you know, the figures and the numbers of young people who were smoking was rapidly dropping off. So there are two issues, I think, here in this motion. The Scottish Government's undertaken to carry out a consultation and bring forward in relation to disposable vapes. And most councils across Scotland have now passed a motion similar to this, really, I suppose, adding their voices to the Scottish Government's views on this, but also, kind of supporting Keep Scotland Beautiful in relation to the litter and action in relation to the impacts of smoking. So I think I would really be hopeful that the council would get behind this for 2 reasons. We have committed to a net zero agenda. We need to prevent it, but we also need to start protecting the health and well-being of our children. And hopefully the Scottish Government, because we can't do it here in Clackmannanshire, we don't have the power to ban vapes ourselves, but I would be hoping that the Scottish Government would bring forward legislation to do this, if not ban, to severely restrict the sale of these items, because right now any shop can pop into a cash and carry and pick up a pack of 20 disposable vapes to sell. The licensing conditions around this are very loose at the moment. All we can do is work with strict standards at the council to prevent sale to under 18-year-olds, but as the data is clearly showing, 30% of young people over 15-year-olds in Clackmannanshire are vaping, so there's clearly work to do here. So I'm just asking for people to get behind the motion, support it. We can get our response off to the Scottish Government and off to the other bodies, just putting our voice behind it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Ward to second the motion.
Thanks. We're not alone in proposing this motion. Over 40 countries have already banned disposable vapes in some way, with the EU proposing a ban from 2026 and France due to introduce one this December. As Councillor Forson said, research has found that around 1.3 million single-use vapes were thrown away each week. This accounts for around 10 tonnes of lithium being sent to landfill or waste incinerators each year in the UK. That's enough metal to make batteries for 1,200 electric cars. If litter, like many are, as I'm sure we've all seen these litter in Clackmannanshire, the batteries can be easily damaged, which could lead to a child, pet, or a relative being hurt if they come across one. If they do end up being binned, this is usually into general waste. More than 700 fires in waste vehicles and recycling centres were caused by batteries that have been dumped in general waste. The batteries from these products need specialist treatment and dealt with as a hazardous waste. Please support this motion.
Thank you. So the motion is open now for debate. We've got Councillor Bowden to the floor. Councillor.
Thank you, convener. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you, I've got some nods there. First of all, I'd like to say that I welcome the motion to council, as it does raise many issues and allows the council to debate what's both an important matter and also a very relevant one. The motion outlines the increased use of disposable vapes. I'm looking at the paper here, it's in 18-fold between 2021 and 2022. The reasons for this are yet unclear, but what should be recognised is the use of disposable and non-disposable vapes by many people as an aid to quitting smoking. The benefits of this should not be underestimated. I've recently stopped smoking. I do make use of disposable vapes and I find them useful for that purpose. At the moment, I'm currently using a Blue Raz lemonade crystal bar, which I can confirm to the council is very pleasant. The fact is that many, but not all, disposable vapes contain nicotine, and that is a cause for concern. But cigarettes also contain nicotine, and there appears to be no realistic prospect of us considering banning them. The tax revenues are, of course, too considerable for the government to allow them to do that. I am concerned that the use of disposable vapes by young people in particular, especially those who are not using them as an aid to quitting smoking, but purely as a lifestyle choice. However, I suspect that if these vapes are unavailable, we will see an increase in cigarette smoking by young people, and that also should be considered. I believe there needs to be more research into the use and potential impact of all vapes, including disposable ones. There may be a place for them in the battle against cigarette smoking, especially if the vapes do not contain nicotine. I was recently on holiday in Portugal, and to the best of my knowledge, the disposable vapes there or that are on sale contain no nicotine, and that may be one way forward in terms of tackling the health risks. The other big issue is, of course, the impact on the environment caused by plastic pollution and the release of toxic chemicals if they're disposed of irresponsibly. Perhaps we should consider better education regarding this and the provision of appropriate receptacles for their disposal. What we have is a tendency nowadays to ban things that we don't agree with. Now, that's perhaps the easiest answer, but I would suggest to Council that it's not always the most effective or the most appropriate one. I feel that by supporting this motion, I would be engaging in a form of virtue signalling to appease a very vocal and aggressive environmental lobby, without fully considering the wider issues and the alternative measures which could be more beneficial both for the environment and for public health. I also feel it's another area where government is seeking to impose its political will on the people whilst restricting the freedom of choice in a cynical, albeit well-meaning effort to improve public health. Minimum unit pricing is another, perhaps more extreme example of that. It's for these reasons that I cannot support the motion, and I would also request a roll call vote on the matter.
We can't hear you in the chamber.
Sorry, Councillor, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, do you want me to come in now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Just to say that I was glad to see this motion brought forward and fully support it. I feel that there aren't enough evidence-based studies really on the harmful effects of vapes, and I think down the line we might see a whole issue with health that we've got with smoking. Just now we just don't know enough about this, but there's been various studies in the United States to show that some particular vapes have shown severe lung problems with young people, and particular very young people who have been using vapes who have already seen significant health issues. I think it's something we can't wait and see. It's not something that we can wait for the impact to come about, and also taking on board fully the kind of environmental impact. I think, you know, we really need to we're really having to consider this across the board. I think it's an extremely important issue. I think, you know, we had choice maybe years ago about smoking or whatever, and we've ended up with a major health concern. And I think the best way for us to take forward the issue, I was an ex-smoker for many years, and I think the best way to take forward this issue is smoking cessation programmes in place to support people. And I don't think this is potentially the answer. So I fully support the motion brought forward by Councillor Forson. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Taggart before Councillor Cook.
Thanks, Convener. I support the motion, and I support it on a couple of different reasons for either Councillor Holden or Councillor Rennie. I'm an ex-smoker and I vape. I've not smoked for loads of years now, and I can guarantee that my health has improved. If I'd continued to smoke, I'd probably been sitting here today. However, I agree with Councillor Holden that maybe taking these vapes entirely off the market could encourage smoke, although they seem to be merely a fashion statement than an actual smoking statement, so I'm not convinced that would be the case. Councillor Rennie is saying about the health impacts. Again, sometimes it's a fashion statement, it can be a fad, it might not lead to anything further, but so far research has shown that. So far it's shown that kids who are vaping are continuing to vape for many, many years ahead. My issue with disposable vapes is that they are more accessible to young people because they're within almost a pocket money range. If I buy a new vape and all the bits that are required to use it, you're talking about £50–60. If kids can go into a shop and buy disposable vape for £3 or £4, that's within their pocket money range. If they had to spend £50 or £60, it's highly unlikely that they're going to gear up their next PS4 reading for a week. So that's my problem with it, is that they're too financially accessible for young people. And it's easy for them to use it as another accessory, just like they would with battery. So I would definitely support this. Thanks, Convener.
Okay, thank you, councillor Quinn, to the board, councillor Martin.
First of all, I'd thank Councillor Fortune for bringing this motion forward. I was going to get around to doing something like this myself, but you beat me to it, and I'm quite happy. I agree 100% with everything you've done here in the motion. Disagree with what Councillor Hope was said. I mean, if you want to use vapes to help them stop smoking, there's non-disposable vapes. You don't need a disposable vape to do that. And absolutely, we know that tobacco companies are absolute scum, and as we try and get rid of their advertising and we hide them and we make it so difficult to for them to reach people. They found a new way to not just reach people, but to reach children. And in almost every shop there's a nice colourful stand with vapes right by the till, or right as you come in the door. You can have it like that. And so, you know, it's not only good for children's health, it's not doing anything for people, and it's kind of a gateway for them to get into smoking. It seems like. Also, I mean, I've had constituents contact me as well about the littering. There's a shop just around the corner from me, and there's a massive amount of litter there with the amount of vapes. We don't need disposable vapes. We don't need the litter of disposable vapes. People that want to use vapes can use non-disposable vapes. I can't wait to so we can ban them hopefully in the country. We can just get rid of them so we can avoid all this environmental damage. We can avoid these kind of things being marketed for our children. So I'm fully supportive of this motion.
Councillor Martin, to be forward, councillor Berry.
Yeah, there's another dimension to this about the disposable vapes. I've known children pick them up and use them. I know around the Delph area, there's often a good few of them lying around, so that really worries me. And I think, it wouldn't matter if they had somewhere that they had to put it. These folk might just still throw them away. So, what you're getting is maybe even younger kids are trying them out just because they're there. So I would support the motion.
Councillor Martin, councillor Wood.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely agree that the whole market for it, the reach has been designed to attract the kids. Absolutely. I mean, if it came out and honestly say if they tried to get kids, they call it away, they're very shut off the trip. In fact, when not very shut off the trip, which means that it's done the colours. What Councillor Fortune also touched on was the littering and the mitigation that take place. But unfortunately, you can put a bin every 10 feet. And I looked at what we thought between the two bins. It's about education, it's about teaching the kids that it's not the great idea. I'm all for educating for littering, absolutely. We want to live in a country there that we don't have much of all over it, but we do. The final bullet point on your motion elements is to promote the working trade standards and prevent the sale of these cigarettes. Absolutely. In fact, I'll go further. I'll turn around and say that if they implement by enforcement a fine for people who are caught in it, and start, if they impose the fine, it's going to start at least £200. There's going to be a meaningful fine. If you hit an effective fine, it needs absolutely nothing. So let's do a meaningful one. Let's get the kids on board. Because these are the ones that are doing the capital for us. Absolutely. I understand the rationale behind vaping in the first place. But to try and help people to come off their addiction to nicotine. But I was thinking about all these other girls and still another day. As a shop here, and you walk in, it's wall to wall, the vapes, and it's all just talking to the high nicotine content. Apart from this, that's going to be totally immoral. So we need to do it for every command, and with this motion, and put some pressure on Scottish Parliament to introduce legislation to try and tackle that. It's got to go with it. So welcome situation. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Benny.
Thanks. Yeah, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about disposable vapes. The vapes that are going about are good in the fact that they're taking people, adults, who have been smoking for many years, into a position where they can actually stop smoking. But what we're talking about today is disposable vapes, which are obviously for children. That anybody who's trying to stop smoking is not going to go get a disposable vape because they're going to distribute it and buy it all for the normal vape so that you've got it there. Plus that, I mean, it's been said about cigarette smoking as well. Cigarettes are now behind closed doors. So it's not as easy now for under 18s to get cigarettes. Obviously, they'll get it somehow or other if they're really desperate, but it's not quite so visible. So when you go into any supermarket, they're all closed off. You have to actually physically ask for cigarettes by the counter. So to me, that is one of the good things as well. I am definitely for this motion and the fact it's disposable waste that's designed for children, and then hopefully the manufacturers, when they get old enough to buy the cigarettes or the other vapes, then they'll just continue with that. And that's not what we want to do. We want to stop the kids from actually doing it in the first place, so that they're not smoking cigarettes and dealing like me, who can't actually walk very far because they smoked for years. So you have to be careful that you're not doing the wrong thing here. It's about the disposable vapes, and I'm all for that being stopped. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Benny.
Next year. I see both sides of this argument, but you know, here that 30% of kids are regularly smoking, I believe, and we say, what would be the impact if there was a ban on that? They're not just going to go, well, that's it, I can't manage and bake anymore. Where are they going to turn? Because they're in the process of already formed addictive habits. So where did they go? Did they go smoking? Did they go soft drugs? You know, what's in place? There's not enough for me around this. Well, it was a very good and I support it. And better regulation and environment agenda to target some of them. There's not enough information, which I hope the Scottish Government will flesh out down the line, but I'm concerned for the kids that are currently vaping, what the impact would be and where they would start that thing on. So I'm against it's not big, but I do support it.
Thanks very
Thanks, Stephen. Just following on from Councillor Weir, I think that's a bit of a leap to vape into soft drugs. My non-scientific experimentation, my son and his close friend group, about 10 of them, every single one of them vapes. Every single one of them can't stand the smell of cigarettes. I think that if vaping was there, I am 99.9% certain that none of them smoke. They hate it. They hate the smell of it. They hate the taste of it. But every one of them vapes, much to my annoyance, to be perfectly frank. But I think that's a bit of a stretch to say that if we take vapes away, you know, they're on to soft drugs. I think that these are marketed 100% at young kids. These kids are 18, 19 years old. They've absolutely jumped on that bandwagon because that's where they're targeted. And I'm fairly certain that they wouldn't be taking up smoking because, as I say, every one of them has been around smokers and can't stand it. So yeah, I am firmly for this on a number of reasons. One, the health of young people, and two, the environmental impact it's causing. I can't see any good reason not to support this motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you want to come back in?
Please, very quickly, just on Councillor Lee's point. I know these disposable vapes contain zero nicotine. It's an accessory that there's no nicotine in them. I've caught my granddaughter one, and there's no nicotine in it. It's just oil. And you can actually go up to Walters and Tesco right now, and the vapes that I use, you can buy a bottle of oil that has zero nicotine. So it's, you're getting the motion of the smoke, but there's actually no nicotine in it. So I don't think a lot of these vapes are going to end up with a nicotine addiction. It's just peer pressure. Everybody's got one in their hand, so it's peer pressure. Thanks, Convener.
Okay, thank you. Reach anybody else in the people? Sorry, Mr. Curran.
Normally, when I see a motion like this, my first reaction would be, this is restriction of liberty, I hate having that. However, I realise that when bringing up my children, I use restriction of liberty all the time. So, children itself is at the core of this, basically. And whether they vape nicotine or not, the fact that some of them do represents a risk to developing a nicotine habit. And from that it's possibly takes them to cigarettes, and that may even take them into other areas where they're not used to the habit of getting some kind of effect from inhalation. So I think for children's sake, I'm prepared to put my restriction of liberty of having to one side and thoroughly support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Dawson, you have an opportunity for Lakes and Play.
Yeah, I'll just briefly sum up, and I welcome the comments, and it's good that we can have these debates. I was in the town yesterday and I heard a conversation between two women, not necessarily young women, but they were talking about vaping and how someone is saying, "Oh, I tried this before, it tastes like Skittles, but there's nothing bad in it, it's completely, it's natural, it's good for you." And I was thinking to myself, wow, I mean, the marketers have got this absolutely right. The fact is, your lungs are there to breathe air, they're not there to breathe in either nicotine, smoke, oil, or anything, other chemicals that are produced by these vapes. And for me, it's the chemicals that are particularly worrying, particularly for young people. We don't know the impact these chemicals are going to have on young people's lungs that are still developing. And 10 years down the line, you can see yourself faced with huge issues in relation to that. I think back in the day, if people understood the impacts that smoking would have on people's lungs and overall health, I don't necessarily think they'd be handing them out the way they did. I think we have a duty to look at the public health issue as well as the littering issue, and to just add our kind of voice to the calls for governments to put in regulation. Personally, I would like to see the disposable vapes banned, as I've said in my motion, because they are cynically targeted towards young people through their colours, through the taste, and through the pricing. The kind of non-disposable vapes are much more expensive, and they are really targeted towards people who are wanting to give up smoking. So I think that's quite important there. And I do welcome the debate, and everyone is completely entitled to their views and opinions on this one. But I would just hope that people would kind of see the bigger picture here and what it is that we're hoping to try and achieve. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. So we've got that down to the vote in the morning, and we'll call for a roll call vote in this. So that's Dave, you can take us through that.
Thank you very much, Convener. I'm just going to go through the names as usual, and I've got Councillor Bailey.
For the motion.
Councillor Lee. Councillor Lindsay. Councillor Bassili.
For the motion.
Councillor Penny.
For.
Councillor Keir.
For.
Councillor Wall. Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Rennie.
For.
Councillor McTaggart.
For.
Councillor Eyre?
Aye.
Yes, Councillor Holden?
Against.
Councillor Quinn?
Aye.
Councillor Harrison? Councillor Martin?
For.
And Councillor Quinn?
Aye.
Thank you. 16 for, 1 against, and 1.
Yeah, so the motion's carried, 16 votes for, 1 against. Thank you everybody for your contributions this morning, and we'll finish the work quicker than we anticipated, which is good. I think the decision not to write forward those other papers is still, I think it's 500 pages to get through for this week on, so I think that just something that the papers still have work is in mind them. And just a lot of them in January and games, so we pick up the bits of details. That's a busy year. Thank you everybody else, everybody for your contributions.